They say how you start your morning literally dictates your entire life. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a massive exaggeration, right? I mean, come on. But today in this explainer, we're unpacking a story that's so profoundly simple, it completely dismantles everything we think we know about monumental success. We're diving into a story called The Power of 5 Minutes. It's all about a teenager who realized that the trajectory of his whole life, and maybe ours too, comes down to just this tiny 5-minute window. It's a really fascinating look at how seemingly insignificant micro-habits can completely rewrite our mornings and ultimately our entire future. If you've ever felt stuck in a rut, or felt like your biggest ambitions are just slipping further away with every sunrise, well, this story maps out exactly how to break free.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to be brutally honest with yourself for just a second here. Ask yourself, what is the very first thing you do after waking up? Before you physically roll out of bed, before your feet even touch the bedroom floor, are you reaching for something? Maybe it's the snooze button. Or, hey, let's be real, are you grabbing your phone to silence the alarm and then accidentally spending the next 45 minutes doom scrolling or watching videos of raccoons eating grapes? The honest answer to that single question might actually be the unseen force that's dictating your entire future and setting a hard ceiling on your potential.
And that brings us right to the center of our source material. We've got this 16-year-old boy named Ethan from a quiet town in Texas. Now, Ethan was a kid defined by a massive, undeniable gap between his expectations and his reality. His ultimate overarching dream was to get top-tier grades and become a NASA engineer. I mean, the kid wanted to build rockets. He literally wanted to reach the stars. But every single day, his reality was completely at odds with that ambition. He was waking up late, immediately reaching for his phone, and wasting hours lost in social media feeds. His massive dreams of aerospace engineering were just completely trapped under the blue light of a screen. He wanted to launch into space, for sure, but his morning routine was keeping him firmly glued to his mattress.
Enter the catalyst of our story. One morning, Ethan happens to cross paths with his elderly neighbor, Mr. Johnson. Now, Mr. Johnson isn't just some friendly guy who waves from his porch. He had actually been a teacher for over 40 years. Think about the gravity of that for a second. That is 4 decades of rich educational wisdom. 40 years of watching thousands of students succeed, watching them fail, and really understanding the precise psychology of how a young mind operates. When they start talking, Mr. Johnson asks Ethan the exact same question we just asked a minute ago. He goes, "Ethan, what's the first thing you do after waking up?" Ethan kind of smiled sheepishly and admitted the truth. He said, "I check my phone."
Hearing that, Mr. Johnson responds with an absolutely profound observation. He says, "That's why your mind belongs to everyone else before it belongs to you." I really want to let that sink in for a moment. Your mind belongs to everyone else before it belongs to you. There is so much deep neuroscience wrapped up in that one sentence. By letting his smartphone be his very first interaction of the day, Ethan was basically letting social media algorithms completely hijack his brain's waking state. When you wake up, your brainwaves are transitioning from a deep, restful state into waking consciousness. It is prime real estate. By immediately flooding it with dopamine loops and external notifications, you instantly put your brain into a reactive, defensive state rather than a proactive one. You literally give away your own mind before you even have a chance to start the day on your own terms.
So, to fix this broken routine, Mr. Johnson issues Ethan a strategic 30-day challenge. The golden rule was incredibly specific. For the next 30 days, he was absolutely not allowed to touch his phone for the first 30 minutes after waking up. Instead, he had to replace that dopamine-heavy habit with 4 super simple, actionable steps. Step 1, drink a glass of water. Step 2, read just 1 page of a physical book. Step 3, study for exactly 5 minutes. And Step 4, write down 1 single goal for the day. When Ethan heard this, he actually thought it was a joke. I mean, compare drinking a glass of water and reading 1 page to becoming a NASA engineer. It sounds almost comically underwhelming, right? But, driven by those massive ambitions of his, he accepted the challenge.
Let's see how this builds organically over time, because spoiler alert, it certainly wasn't a magical overnight fix. Week 1 was notoriously difficult. In fact, Ethan wanted to quit entirely. Breaking that morning phone habit was a grueling withdrawal process for his brain because it was just so used to that instant morning dopamine hit. But every time he wanted to give up, he forced himself to picture working at NASA. Then something incredible happened. The psychological friction faded and momentum really kicked in. By week 2, because he was already sitting at his desk, that tiny 5-minute study session naturally expanded to 15 minutes. A little later on, 15 minutes stretched seamlessly into 30 minutes. And by the end of the school year, no way, you wouldn't believe it. Ethan completely bypassed his previous limits and actually won his school's prestigious science competition. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept of keystone habits. A keystone habit is basically a single, small change that creates a massive ripple effect, knocking over dominoes across every other area of your life. It wasn't just about winning a single science competition. By taking control of those first few minutes, Ethan experienced a total identity shift. His grades improved across the board. His internal confidence skyrocketed because he was proving to himself every single morning that he was disciplined. His teachers actively noticed a drastic positive change in his focus. And of course, his parents were incredibly proud. One small, structured change in the opening moments of his day ended up positively rewiring absolutely everything else in his life.
Which brings us to a beautiful culmination of our story. Picture the scene here. It is the end of the school year. We are at the school's science competition awards ceremony. The auditorium is completely packed, and Ethan is standing victorious on stage. He is totally transformed from the kid who used to waste hours trapped in bed scrolling through feeds. Naturally, the audience of peers and parents is completely amazed by this massive turnaround. You can hear the murmurs in the crowd. They all want to know this secret. They're probably expecting to hear about some agonizing regimen of waking up at 3 a.m., drinking raw eggs, and studying until his eyes bled to achieve this level of excellence.
So Ethan approaches the microphone and he tells them the secret. And the secret? Well, it wasn't some complex formula. It wasn't an expensive elite tutor. It wasn't an agonizing lack of sleep. The secret was just 5. Just 5.
Looking out at that expectant crowd, Ethan delivered an absolute mic drop statement. He said, "I didn't become successful because I studied for hours. I became successful because I started every morning with just 5 focused minutes." The simplicity of it completely stunned the room. That triumphant reveal perfectly validated the 4 decades of educational wisdom from his mentor. The audience erupted into applause, and right there, sitting quietly in the back row, Mr. Johnson smiled proudly. He knew exactly how reclaiming those initial 5 minutes had entirely rebuilt a young man's mind.
So the crucial point we really want to highlight in this explainer is this. Massive success is rarely the result of giant, impossible leaps. Whether your goal is becoming a NASA engineer, winning a science competition, starting a business, or just mastering a new skill, the foundation is exactly the same. Great achievements begin with one small, highly consistent micro-habit every single morning. By simply refusing to give your mind away to the algorithm and dedicating just 5 focused minutes to yourself to start your day, you can literally redirect your entire future.
Which leaves us with one final, echoing thought to close out our explainer today. And actually, this is a challenge directly to you, passed down from Mr. Johnson's decades of wisdom. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, how will you spend your first 5 minutes? Will you hand your mind over to the rest of the world, or will you finally take it back for yourself? Keep that in mind when you wake up tomorrow. Thank you so much for exploring this story with us today, and I highly encourage